What made you start this?
When I started my business, everyone, including my family, laughed at me saying, "What the hell are you doing?"
Kanika, you are one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the country today.
Being an entrepreneur in this country, and without going into the gender piece of it, is not an easy job.
Challenges, obstacles in the early years.
People planted stones in our engines, they tried to puncture our aircraft
No
tires.
way.
I remember walking into my first sales pitch, and the owner of the business said, "Can you ask everyone if they want tea or coffee?" It took me a lot of courage and motivation to just, hold the tears back and turn around and say, "Sir, I am here to pitch to you, fly you private." And he looked at me and he said, "Beta, aap plane udaoge?"
Or what does a day in Kanika's life look like?
I always tell people I'm a glorified taxi operator. Okay, there's no difference between the two. One runs taxis on the ground, we run taxis in the air.
What would your advice be to an entrepreneur?
I grew up in a startup era where you woke up to Snapdeal raises $500 million, Flipkart raises $1 billion, but no one was talking about what profit are they making.
What does because she can mean?
It's okay to be a man and fail, but if the daughter has failed, हमने बोला था you won't be able to do it.
Welcome to another episode of Because She Can. Today we have Kanika Tekriwal, co-founder and CEO of JetSetGo. Known as the Sky Queen, Kanika revolutionized the aviation industry by launching India's first aircraft leasing organization. Despite battling cancer in her early 20s, she's built a successful company that manages 100,000 flyers and 6,000 flights. Recognized in Forbes 30 Under 30 and as a BBC 100 Women honoree, Kanika continues to break barriers and inspire with her entrepreneurial spirit and dedication. Kanika, such a pleasure to have you. Your aviation journey began at 17 when you were in college, and you founded JetSetGo in 2012. So tell me, what made you start this?
I think, the way I don't know if you'll relate to me, but I come from a proper Marwari business family where, girls don't work, girls don't, even if you work, we work within the family business, not now, but at least at the time I was growing up. And I was very fascinated by planes, by helicopters, by everything that flew. And I wanted to become a pilot. And I remember going and telling my dad that I want to become a pilot. And he said, "Hamari ghar ki ladkiyan kaam nahi karti." And I said, that was a very new alien concept to me. I was a boarding school kid, who had always seen independent women. And I never really spent time in the culture and community I was expected to thrive.
Be a part of.
And so I think, at that age, I remember I was in the 10th grade going on to the 11th grade. And I just assumed what my father is saying is right, obviously. So I moved, I went along with the plans that he had. And I think one fine day, I was very lucky to be in the right place at the right time. And I managed, while I was in college, I managed to get a job in an aviation company and start working with a person who wanted to buy planes, etc. And I think, slowly from that time onwards, I just figured out this is the life I want. This is what I want to do. And I never really had the courage, I think, even from then to really, go about doing it. But like you mentioned, when I got diagnosed with cancer at 21, I think that was the turning point for me. I said, look, after this is what I want to do. If God's given me another chance to live, I want to live it on my terms. I want to do what I really want to do. And I took this step and I said, the day I recovered, I think I ran away from home. It's a very filmy story, but I'll leave that for later. So I literally ran away from home with no money in my pocket and I moved to Delhi to set up this company.
Wow.
And, it was, at that time, it seemed like the normal thing to do. Would I do it now? No, I would be so scared. Ghar kaise chodu, But I think when you're younger with no responsibilities, you have a lot more courage and conviction to do stuff. And I think cancer gave me that feeling of being invincible.
Wow.
It taught me how to believe in myself. It taught me how to believe in the power of my dreams. It taught me to believe in my own mind. And I think I just took that leap, and I moved to Delhi, stayed with friends for a few months. Parents didn't talk to me. No one, I'd become the outcast of this big Marwari family and took it from there, I think. And things did work from day one. If anyone thinks that you take this big leap and, you would know yourself, you've founded businesses, you've done so much. But it took a lot of time. It took 4 years of, struggling, failing, getting up, not wanting to get up from bed, not wanting to fight the world. And I think, it's been a great journey ever since.
So I love this. Kanika, you are one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the country today. Tell me some of these challenges, obstacles in the early years.
I think when someone asks me, did you ever face any challenges? I always say a challenge is a challenge when you make it a challenge.
Right.
And I wish I'd realized this when I was much younger. I mean, today I look at, I look at it, a problem is a problem that when I term it as a problem. Otherwise, it's something I have to sail, just go through. And the challenges that felt like challenges at that time today feel like jokes, to be honest. Like, I'll give an example. When a plane would get spoiled 5 years ago, I would cry. I would literally cry, not 5 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, saying, ab kya hoega? Plane kharab ho gaya. How will people, what are my customers going to say? Now, if a plane gets spoiled, it gets repaired, and a replacement plane goes in, I don't even come to know. And it's obviously the evolution of a business. But, on the softer side, I think, being an entrepreneur in this country, and without going into the gender piece of it, is not an easy job. I'll give you a simple example. When I wanted to register my company, I had the word aviation in it. It's called JetSetGo Aviation Services Private Limited. And the ROC refused to register my company, saying that you have the word aviation, go get an approval from the ministry. I said, I'm not asking you for an aircraft operating license. I'm trying to register a company. And your rules say that the second or third word of the company has to mean what you do. Like, how if you've done Safe Educate, you would have had some words which are required by the government. It took me 1 year to register a company in this country. And I hope that's changed now, because I'd have to take a train to Gwalior to meet with the head of ROC, fight with him, and get my company registered. Now people are going to laugh at me, kya bol rahi hai? But it started with stuff like that. Going forward, I think, I remember walking into my first sales pitch. I was, I think, 22 or 23, and we'd gone to pitch to a big company in Bombay. And by we, I mean it was only me. And I walked into a conference room with about 14 people who walked in before me, who were all part of the company and the owner of the business, and I was the last person to walk in. And he looked at me up and down and he said, "Can you ask everyone if they want tea or coffee?"
Oh, no
he
way.
Probably, I swear,
no way.
And he probably assumed I was a secretary in his own office or the admin assistant or something. And I again wanted to cry then. And I think tears have been a very integral part of my story, because now while talking to you, I realize I've cried a lot while building the business. But it took me a lot of courage and motivation to just, hold the tears back and turn around and say, "Sir, I am here. I'm the person who's here to pitch to you to, fly you private." And he looked at me and he said, "Beta, aap plane udaoge?" I said, "Sir, I won't be the one flying it. I'm the one who will give you the planes." He said, "Are you sure?" That he said, "Acha, beto." He also, obviously, poor guy, also got shaken. What has he said? Yeah, exactly. And rightly so. At least he was, and he wasn't used to at that time. I mean, this I'm talking to you almost 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. He wasn't used to having a woman come in there and talk about aviation and which aircraft is rightly suited. And a lot of people still aren't. As much as we want to admit it, I've had some instances very recently also where people have thought I'm the, business development manager for my company and stuff like that. And I mean, I love it, to be honest, because, the more
it's like, that's how young I look.
Exactly. Right? I'm like, it's good if you think, I can do this. But, it took me I'll never forget that meeting, because it took me almost an hour to, hold myself together and convince him. And he did become a customer. And today he's our biggest champion. Our industry works on word of mouth. You can put up as many billboards as you want, but it won't get you customers. You have to have your customers as champions. He sent so many customers our way. He always tells me, "Kanika, it's because of you I've started hiring so many more women at work." His senior leadership before our meeting didn't have a single woman. Now he's got 4 CXOs in the company.
I love that.
So, while it's been a challenge, but I also think every challenge is an opportunity to do something new, to change something, right? I think that's what really worked out. So I think it's been a very adventurous roller coaster, with the roller coaster getting spoiled when you're upside down.
Hopefully not when you're up in the air.
When you're up in the air. But I think fixing that roller coaster and coming back off it has been a more gratifying part of it. And given a chance, I wouldn't go and change anything.
I love this. So tell me, I think aviation and especially private jets, like it's luxurious, it's what Instagram reels are made of. What's the actual reality of this? Is it as glamorous as it looks? Or what does a day in Kanika's life look like?
So, I always tell people I'm a glorified taxi operator. Okay, there's no difference between the two. One runs taxis on the ground, we run taxis in the air. And I think it's far from glamorous, to be honest. And I love it that way. I'm not one of those people, I think, who would want to, I'm not that person who likes to be a part of something which is more, talk than walk. And I think, for me, it's more about how can we make more and more people fly private. Right now it's accessible to maybe 0.1% of the country. But what really wakes me up each morning is, how do I make sure the skies are the new roads for this world, and that's
Right.
the only way the world's going to grow, because if you look at it, there's only so much more roads you can build, there's only so much more space to park cars. If you don't use the sky as your next mode of transport, where's the world going to go? How are we going to progress? And I think a day in my life is about, what do we do to take this to the next level? How do we get more and more people flying? Which is why we're working on something called eVTOLs. These are intracity connectivity, almost like human drones, I would say. So
Right.
to get the way from home to office, which would normally take
Oh,
you maybe
wow.
45 minutes by car,
Wow.
we would want to do it in 10 minutes. So,
Oh,
I think I
right.
spent a lot of my time today figuring out how to make this a reality in India. I spent a lot of time doing a lot of work with different regulators across the world to come up with the right regulations. I think for the daily, my daily mundane stuff involves spending a lot of time with my finance team, figuring out where we're going to buy the next planes from, meeting a lot of customers. I think, I spent almost 4 days a week traveling, not on my own planes. I think I'm
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was like, every time you're taking a flight, is
so,
that...
I think I'm Indigo's favorite customer and Vistara. So my pilots joke with me that I probably have more miles than them,
Wow.
and commercial miles than them, because
Yeah, so just because you are running a JetSetGo
does
doesn't
not
mean
mean you fly
that you're
JetSetGo.
flying
Yeah.
JetSetGo.
I mean, one day, hopefully. But for now, yeah. So I think I spend a lot of time meeting customers, and that's very important, because if you don't meet your customers and understand what you're doing wrong, what you can change, what you can improve, you're never going to make it to the next level. And I think I also spend a lot of time focusing on safety, because I think that's the most important thing for us in any business,
Right.
today. But specifically in an aviation business, I think, safety is extra crucial, because you're flying the most important people in the world, and you have to ensure that, you give them the safest possible planes. So I spend a lot of time with my engineering team to understand, how we can use technology to actually improve our safety standards, how do we use technology to improve maintenance. And this business is a business of, the unknown, and it's one of the few businesses, actually, you would know, I mean, you're in the logistics business yourself, tomorrow there's a weather issue, or tomorrow there's a technical issue with an aircraft. There's so many things you can't control. If a pilot falls sick, or if there's a hailstorm in Delhi, your customers get delayed, or fog in Delhi, and all hell breaks loose for me. So I think a lot of that day also goes in handling these unknowns and catering for them, and figuring out, how best can we improve the customer experience. And to even minor things, figuring out if it's a customer's birthday, how do we improve his flight experience, I think. And these are the small things that matter to me. I mean, the bigger things will come in life, right? But what can you do to make your customer's life better? I think that's what drives me each day to keep going.
Love that. So what would your advice be, to an entrepreneur, someone who wants to start their own company? Like, what is going to be the 3 things you'll tell them that, this is something you need to look at?
I think there's so much advice out there, so I don't even know if I'm well placed to do it. But if I had to go and start a company again, and if I was younger, I think the 3 things I would always look at, and the one thing we did right, I think, was we never chased funding. And I grew up in a startup era where you woke up to Snapdeal raises $500 million, Flipkart raises $1 billion, but no one was talking about what profit are they making. And then I came from this Marwadi family where I said, if I'm doing a business, I need to make money.
Exactly.
And I always worked with a motive to earn money for the business, for your investors, as simple as that. I never chased funding, I always chased profitability. And I think that's very crucial.
Love that.
And why I say that's very crucial is, ultimately, no amount of value can be added to any business without a business becoming profitable. And we've seen that happen. We've seen that whole churn. We saw the likes of Snapdeal, etc., evaporate.
And everyone eventually wants...
Exactly, profits, at the end of the day. So I think, when you're building a business, it's very important that you don't focus on fancy offices, fancy cars, fancy walls. I started a business out of my friend's bedroom, literally, and I'm very happy I did that. And even today, I think we're one of those companies which is very conservative and fickle in our spending. And I think that's very important for every entrepreneur starting out. It's very crucial that you'll only have a limited amount of money to spend. It's very important that you be fickle and spend that money wisely. Do things you can do on your own. You don't need to outsource everything. And I'll give you a simple example. For a company our scale, our size, we never had a sales team. I've been the only salesperson in the company. And I literally, everyone laughed at me saying, why? I mean, now we're building a sales team because it's come to a point where it needs it. I said, see, instead of investing money into marketing and building a sales team, I would rather invest it back into my customer's pocket and do things I can do better on my own, or multitask, right? So I always say, I think it's very important to, figure out what do you really need to invest money in. Make a list of the top 5 things you need to invest money in, and invest on your easiest victories, which will lead you towards your goals fastest. And then
Highest
look at the
return,
exactly,
basically.
and then look at the secondary things.
I love that. So basically, run after profitability
Absolutely.
and use money wisely. You know,
And be fickle. Yeah. Be a Marwadi. as
be
we like to put it
Marwadi,
that way.
be Marwadi, like that's standard.
Yeah.
You know, so we of course, and I mean, glamorous business. You have Taylor Swift, Shah Rukh, and Amitabh, Virat. A lot of them own their own private jets.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of controversy about just the use and the environment effects
Of course.
of this. What are your views? Of
So I think
privately
I'm a
owning
very, very strong propaganda of, a clean world. And
Right.
I personally believe that, we've destroyed the environment to an extent where I don't know if I'm leaving a safe world for the kids that I want to have.
Right.
Sometimes I have this debate with myself, do I even want to have children? Because will I leave them with a world where they have to live on with, I have these visions in my head of these big masts with pipes and oxygen tanks which these kids are roaming around with, which could happen, at the rate we're moving. Look at how hot Delhi is.
Yeah.
And London's calling 26 degrees a heat wave.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
almost
like come here. Yeah, seriously.
we're at 46, 48 degrees, and I mean, this is not a heat wave, this is a death wave,
Yeah.
is what I would call it, right? So I think I'm very conscious about this, which is why, as a business, we've taken a pledge to be carbon neutral by a certain time. And which is why, as a business, we're focusing we're investing a large part of our money on making flying sustainable. See, the way I look at it is, if I say I'll stop flying, running this company, or if I'll stop flying private, will the world stop doing it? No. It's a necessity.
You need it, right?
Yeah,
And
you
there's
need it.
certain
It's a
people where
necessity
it
at the end of the day.
needs to
Can Taylor Swift board an Indigo and still be at every concert? It's not possible. Can she
Right.
do it with Emirates? It's not possible. So she needs the plane. But I think where do people like us fit in today is, how do we make these planes greener?
Right.
And how do we make these planes contribute to the environment rather than take away from the environment? And that's what we're doing. We're working on SAF with companies. SAF is basically sustainable aviation fuel. We're working on fully electric planes. We hope for the first fully electric plane to take flight in the next 5 years. So I think there's a lot of progress and change that's going to happen. And pointing out that only one industry is causing environmental damage it's obviously not the truth. But
Right.
it's very easy to call on people who are out there, rich, living their lives,
Right.
and saying they're causing the
And they
damage.
need it, right?
Exactly.
At some point, there is
For their
utility,
safety, security. There's so
yes.
much, today Taylor Swift is also entertaining the whole world. So if
Right.
she's using a private jet to do it, what wrong is she doing?
Right. And if she needs to go from one concert
Precisely.
to the other.
So, in fact, last night I was at dinner with a friend who just took her daughter for the Taylor Swift concert to Liverpool.
Okay.
And she told me, said, Kanika, if I was 1/3 the entrepreneur Taylor Swift was, my life would be very different. But what we're not giving to her is, this girl is kicking ass, and she's actually a solid woman entrepreneur. She says the one word, some friendship bracelet in some song. I don't know if you have a daughter who's Taylor Swift's age, and
I have a
everyone
50.
starts swapping
Yeah,
bracelets all over the place and stuff. So I think instead of appreciating that, what do we look at? Okay, what are the wrong things she's doing? So I think that mindset needs to somewhere change. And we need to appreciate the efforts people are also making to make the world a better place.
Thanks. And I think that for me is a huge takeaway. It's not just about calling out, it's not about calling the kettle black.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's just trying to fix it and just making the world better versus
Precisely,
just saying, ye bhi mat karo, wo bhi mat karo, sab band kar do. Like, the users of JetSetGo, I mean, are they celebrities? Are they entrepreneurs, sports personalities? Who's been your favorite?
So, this business is not as glamorous as it sounds, to be honest. And yeah, while we do have a lot of celebrities, a lot of sports people, a lot of famous people who fly with us, I think we have a lot more entrepreneurs, government officers, etc., being government office bearers flying with us. Because, I personally believe at JetSetGo, you're enabling that 0.1% of India which manages the livelihoods of the balance 99.9%. What are our customers using us for? To go do 4 meetings in a city in one day, or
Right.
Be at 3 concerts in one day. So there'll be a lot of very funny stuff. That's very funny things that have happened on planes as well. Like, I'll give you an example. When I just started the business, I had a celebrity call me. He was smashed after a party saying, Kanika, I need to go to Hyderabad tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.
Right.
And he actually meant to tell me he has to go to Chennai and not Hyderabad.
No way.
And when he boarded the plane and he saw the map and he's like, why is this plane going to Hyderabad? I said, because you asked. He called me and said, Kanika, you take me to Hyderabad. I need to go to Chennai. I said, you called me the previous night and told me you want to go to Hyderabad. He's like, oh shit. Then, obviously we fixed it.
Who's the celebrity?
That I can't tell you. I was going to stop flying with me. But so, a lot of fun stuff. Then there'll be some very crazy stuff. Like I've been called out for having 4 pieces of cucumber in someone's salad instead of 3, cut to a certain size. And I've actually called him out and said, you had a fight with your wife today and that's why you're taking it out on me. And he kind of agreed. So I think it's been, we've had some crazy incidents on board, off board, offline. But yeah, I think it's all part of the business.
I love this. You spoke about it a little bit, but what is an air taxi? And
so I think in the real sense, what we're trying to do with air taxis is replicate Uber on ground in the skies, if I can tell you that. The idea is, but the only difference would be probably that at the first stage, an Uber can come to your house, but what we're trying to do is, what the world is trying to do, I think a lot of the eVTOL players, air taxi players in the world are trying to do is, they're building vertiports, which are basically rooftop landing pads, where you have these electric drones, if I may call them. I don't know how better to put it in simple words, which are passenger drones.
Wow.
With 4 people, 6 people, 8 people, which fly you from point A to point B. And these are fully electric, they're fully green, so the carbon footprint is negligible.
And this is now a reality.
It is going to be real in a couple of years. So, there are about 20 different players who are almost at certification. So the next one, in fact, in the Paris Olympics, you're going to see the first few commercial flights happen as well.
Oh, wow.
And so the whole idea behind this is, how do you get people from point A to point B in the fastest possible manner in the least possible time? And that's what these air taxis are doing. I mean, can you imagine avoiding 45 minutes of traffic on the road to get from home to office and just take that in 10 minutes?
Wow.
So I think that's going to be the biggest game changer for the world. And why I tell you this is because, if you look at it, everything we do has been disrupted. The food you're eating has been disrupted. Your phone, your laptops, your iPads. 5 years ago, our generation didn't think we would be using FaceTime and talking to people on video call and keeping, family members so close. The only thing that's not been disrupted has been aviation. It's still the historic big airports, still the historic giant planes. Also because aviation has always been historically a very, very capital intensive business. And there are 4 or 5 big OEMs who've controlled this industry globally, right? And that's what's changed now. Finally in the last 5 years, you had people out of, say an Indian IIT in Chennai has built an air taxi right now, which is going towards certification. Would you ever think of that happening?
Wow.
So, and I think that's what's changing. So it's going to be affordable. That's the key part to it. You're not going to have to pay an arm and a leg to fly in an air taxi from point A to point B. Our target is almost the cost of an Uber in the long run. And, so it should be equivalent to the cost of an Uber.
My God, and this is the vision that you have for JetSetGo.
And hopefully in 2028, we'll be able to do the first flights,
Oh my God, I think I'm so looking forward. This is literally,
it's going to be quite
I think
amazing,
the movies that you see in sci-fi, you're talking about that being this close to reality.
So that's the hope right now,
Right. No, and Kanika, I completely agree with you. I think one of the most precious things we have in our lives is our time.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's it.
And it's also the most limited thing,
It's the most limited thing. So if you can somehow kind of figure this out,
you've changed people's lives.
You've changed people's life, and given this limited time, and you are managing so many commitments. You are the chair for YGL.
Yeah.
You've of course been you've been working with industry associations. How do you manage this, your personal and your professional, with this limit? What is balance?
I think I should be asking you that. But so this is the wrong person asking the wrong person the question. But I think on a serious note, the way everyone talks about this work-life balance and social work-life balance or whatever it is. I don't think there is any balance between anything. If you're trying to tell me that you can get off work every day at 6 p.m. and make it home on time for dinner, I can't. And maybe I'm failing at that. I don't know what it is, but I think what I've started doing and what I started realizing in the last 5 to 6 years was, I have to make time for what makes me happy, right? And if being at home makes me happy, and if I need to take a day off work to, be at home and spend time with my family, I will do it. But if I'm not going to take that compulsive Sunday off just because it's a Sunday, and I'm not going to do that summer holiday just because I have to do the summer holiday. And I think I was having this discussion with you. I just one fine day woke up and I said, I'm cancelling all my summer holiday plans because why am I doing this? Because it has to be done. I can go in September for a holiday, right? Because I don't need the holiday right now. So I think the only way to make things work is stop succumbing to pressure. Be it social, be it societal, be it family, whatever. And, I had a fight with my mom recently, and she lives in a different city, and she's like, you're not coming home to visit me, blah, 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 blah. So I said, Mom, by you telling me I'm not coming home, it's not going to make me want to come home, right? I will come home when I want to come home. And I think that's what we all need to do as women. It's very hard for us to say no to someone, like say no to your husband for a social commitment for dinner, right? And when I realized this today on my way to you, in fact, I was talking to my husband and I was saying, why don't you go and meet so and so? He's like, no, when you come back, we'll do a combined meeting. So I said, do you want me to come back to do this meeting? He's like, no, you make, as per your schedule, you make it work. And I just thanked my lucky stars. I said, what did I do right in my life to get a man who respects my time? And given that his business is 10,000 times the size of my business, what did we do? What did I do right to deserve this? I think as women, that's what you need to do to make things work. You need to start prioritizing what you want to do. And I think suddenly, and that's what you did, right? I mean, you've done it yourself. The amount of stuff you've handled in in a year and a half. The world's seen you do it. I'm telling you this as an outsider.
Oh, thank you.
And I think that's what you did. What you wanted to do on your terms. I think that's very important. If going to work and spending 2 hours extra at work gives you that happiness and helps you reach your goals, do it without shame. And the moment you pull shame out of your life, and you stop holding yourself accountable for not having had dinner with your kids or not having had lunch with your
and
in-laws.
this shame and this guilt.
Exactly.
That
you have to cut that out, and only then will you achieve any sort of balance.
Right.
Because if you're not happy, nothing is going to be balanced in life. So I think it's the only way to manage time is do what you really want to do. Prioritize your goals yourself, and until you don't do that, no one will respect you. Your kids won't respect you. Your spouses won't respect you. If you keep putting, and I did that, in between. For about a few months, I went on this whole trip where I started putting other people's priorities before mine. And I said, what the hell am I doing? Was anyone appreciating that? No, they started demanding more and more and more.
And you kind of stop growing
exactly
as a result, right? And then
absolutely.
you become as a negative.
So as selfish as it may sound, I think, as women, you really need to prioritize yourselves first. That's the only key to getting out of this rut.
I love that. I love that. And so, that takes me, we have some fun questions.
Done.
So, who would be your inspiration?
I think I love Richard Branson.
Uh-huh.
He really inspires me. As big a nut job as he is, probably.
Getting there when you get the Virgin Islands,
yeah,
please,
exactly.
you know who to invite. Favorite aircraft model?
I think right now it's the Gulfstream 650.
Okay. Luxury or simplicity?
Luxury. I shouldn't be saying this,
but yeah. Favorite quote?
Favorite quote. So I don't know if I can say it right, but I was on a flight many years ago when I was starting up my business, and this person sitting next to me spoke to me, and he told me this. He said, Gandhiji once said, first the world laughs at you, then they fight you, then they take seriously, and then you win. Or something on those lines. And it made so much sense. If I look back at my whole journey, when I started my business, everyone, including my family, laughed at me, saying, what the hell are you doing?
Are you really talking about private
exactly.
jets?
Like, are you crazy? I remember my chacha telling me, do you even know how many zeros are there in a billion?
Wow.
And no one took me seriously. And I think when we did, start getting there, the whole world fought us. Our competitors tried to bring us down. People planted stones in our engines. They tried to puncture our aircraft tires. All sorts of stuff, And then they start taking us seriously, and I think seriously to an extent where people start treating us as competition and customers start taking us seriously, and then we won. And I think we're still, we've not won, but I think we're still in the
Oh yes, we're there. Like I think we're talking about a private aviation. So JetSetGo is your.
So I think I think that's been something that's really kept me going at all times. This quote, yeah.
So private jet or commercial flight?
Private jet if I can pay for it.
Or someone else is paying for it.
Oh yeah, someone else is paying for it.
What's your superpower?
I think my ability to believe in myself.
I love that. And if you could time travel, where would you go and what would you change?
I really wouldn't want to change anything, but I think I would want to go back to being a baby at like maybe 2 or 3 years old and just chilling. I think not changing anything, but just living that life again.
Just living that life.
The way I was not responsible for anything in the world.
So, I'm going to add this just for this thing. Who's your biggest cheerleader?
I think my husband, yeah, for sure.
I kind of got that feeling.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for, being that amazing person and being that cheerleader for you. And finally, Kanika, what does Because She Can mean for you?
I think it means so much, and I've been following your story with Because She Can for a while, obviously on social media and stuff. And I think, to me, the biggest meaning is that any woman can do what she wants to do. Right. I don't know if it's coming out right, but I think there's, I think there's been like, say for example, I was being given an award recently, and it was the Woman Entrepreneur of the Year award. And I don't want to be known as a woman entrepreneur. You know, I want to be known as an entrepreneur who's contributed to society, who's made a difference, who's had an impact. And I think that's what because she can means, that, you know, she can because she can, not because she's a woman or she's,
Because
you know,
she's different,
or whatever, you know. And I think that's what the country needs to wake up to. Today we're very privileged to be living in Delhi, Bombay, Hyderabad, etc., because we're still seeing a very, very small part of the world, you know. And you told me yourself, you know, you did a course at Harvard and there were 10 or 12 women in a class of 100. And, you know, if you go down into smaller towns, I'm not even saying go down to villages, I'm saying go to a Bhopal, Indore, you're running skilling schools, you would see it yourself. You know, how many women actually have the courage, capability, and power to stand up and voice their dreams?
Right.
You know, I mentor a lot of young women for, you know, who want to start out on their entrepreneurial journeys, and especially from smaller towns, you know, people who don't have access to the kind of stuff we have access to. And my one learning is that they don't even have the courage to stand up and say, I want to start a business.
मुझे कुछ करना है.
Exactly, मुझे कुछ करना है. You know, that's such a big deal. And I think that's what because she can means to me, that, you know, it, just because you're a woman, it should not be assumed that you cannot start a business, or that you cannot work for somebody, or you cannot do a job, or you have to become a doctor, engineer, or you know, one of those typical tier 2 safe jobs, right? And the other thing also, I think, you know, it means to me, which I've learned a lot, is it's okay to be a man and fail at work in this world. You know, I've seen a lot of friends from equally privileged backgrounds who, when, you know, when their sons have failed at startups and stuff, the parents have been like, "Ha, theek hai beta, you know, start another one." But if the daughters failed, humne bola tha you won't be able to do it.
Wow.
You know, and I think that's what needs to change, and that's what you're doing with because
but
she
that
can,
is
you know?
so true.
And no one calls it out, I'll be honest with you. You know, no one ever called it out. If your daughter-in-law fails,
तो बस अब
exactly.
बोला था नहीं होएगा.
You know, if your daughter-in-law fails in the same household, I'm telling you,
Yeah.
if the daughter-in-law fails, we told you, you know, you're not going to be able to make it work. But if the son fails at the same business, you know, that's okay, it's fine. You need to start something else, wake up, you'll have an army of people to motivate you. You know, so for me, it means so many things, and it's such a powerful statement. And, you know, I think with what you're doing with your podcast and stuff, you're ultimately reaching out to women who don't have a voice, you know, who can't stand up there and be there for themselves. You know, we live in such a different world. I was talking to my husband yesterday. He told me, you know, the interiors of Andhra Pradesh, every night women get beaten up by their husbands for the money they've earned in the day being laborers, etc., for the alcohol they have to buy. You know, and those women need to stand up and have a voice. And how do they do that? You know, by having people inspire them, motivate them to be able to stand up for themselves. And I think that's what you're doing.
And then just say it. And really,
Exactly.
Kanika, you are just such an icon.
That's very
And,
nice
you know,
of you to say
everything
that.
about you, your story, and just someone, you know, taking on aviation, having a dream and then having the ability to live it. So really,
Thank
you're
you
not
so
just the
much.
sky queen, but you're really a queen
Thank you so much.
for
That's very
us
kind of
because
you.
she can.
Thanks,
So,
Madhavi.
pleasure, Kanika. We
Thank
have
you.
a little memento for you.